By now, you're probably aware that Alberta Premier Danielle Smith held a press conference yesterday, and she announced that Alberta is going to be the proponent for a new pipeline from Alberta to either Prince Rupert or to Kitimat on BC's northwest coast. And one of the things that, I mean, there's a technical advisory group, and they're going to put together, take about 6 months, and they're going to put together this application to the Major Projects Office, which is the federal office that will supervise all of these projects of national interest that Prime Minister Mark Carney has been talking about implementing in a hurry. So they're going to do this over the next 6 months and then get something in the spring. But I have a question, and this has been nagging at me, and we'll see if we can find an actual answer from the federal government. But in the technical advisory group, there's a group of industry veterans, mostly oil and gas industry veterans, including Alex Pourbet from Cenovus Energy, one of the big oil sands companies. He's a co-chair. The Deputy Minister of Energy for Alberta is another co-chair. And then there are three pipeline companies, and they're supposed to be providing technical expertise and input. So first of all is Enbridge. Now you'll remember that Enbridge was the proponent for the ill-fated Northern Gateway project that got canceled in 2016. It was supposed to terminate at Kitimat. And there were a whole bunch of problems. Their consultation with Indigenous people was not very good. Even though the Stephen Harper government, federal government at the time, approved it, it was overturned in court. And the political problems were just such that finally in fall of 2016, new Prime Minister Justin Trudeau just canceled it. And that's been a contentious issue in the industry and in Alberta for a long, long time, bitterly resented. But the point here is that Enbridge had done all of the technical planning for this project, and it included the route to Kitimat and the route to Prince Rupert. Those were the only two that were considered. And the route to Prince Rupert was rejected for technical reasons. Very mountainous, very challenging terrain, and they didn't think they could do it cost effectively or safely. So really, Kitimat was the only option. The second company is called Southbow. And TC Energy, which along with Enbridge is the two of the largest pipeline companies in North America. And I forget, a year or two ago, they spun off their liquids pipeline operation into a separate company, Southbow. And then the TC Energy is now going to focus on gas. So they bring expertise, not specifically on getting to the West Coast, but nevertheless, they've got plenty of technical expertise. And then we have the Trans Mountain Corporation, which is a federal crown corporation that was created by the Justin Trudeau government because in 2018, Kinder Morgan, which had been the proponent for the Trans Mountain expansion pipeline, 590,000 barrels a day, added to the existing Trans Mountain pipeline and terminating in Burnaby on the West Coast. And Kinder Morgan bailed because they had been harassed by the city of Burnaby and then by the new NDP government in British Columbia starting in 2017. And they just finally threw up their hands and said, that's it. And of course, didn't get a lot of play, but they also had debt problems down in the United States in the parent company, and they just needed to be rid of the project and move on. Well, it was so politically contentious, and the government of Canada stepped in, created a federal crown corporation, bought the project and all of the other assets, like the Trans Mountain pipeline, from Kinder Morgan, and then built it. And it went into service last year, and it cost $34 billion. The original estimate was $5.7 billion. It cost $34 billion. Okay. So Trans Mountain Corporation, the Crown Corporation, built this thing, and obviously it has technical expertise, right? I mean, it's a pipeline company. But that doesn't mean they have technical expertise on the issues around, designing a route or building a route from Edmonton to Kitimat or Edmonton to Prince Rupert. Why are they there? that it does really, they add nothing on the technical side that TC Energy or Enbridge couldn't provide. And if there was some specialized knowledge that they had, they could have, been asked or hired or whatever. So my theory here, my hypothesis, if you will, is the fact that while the Alberta is positioning itself as the proponent, the leader of this application, the Carney government wants it built. And Trans Mountain Corporation is at the table, sort of the prime minister's ears and eyes around the table. And if the application looks good and if it gets approved, that the Trans Mountain Corp might be it might advance financing to the project, which it can do. It might provide inside information, for the federal government, which has several big pots of money that it can lend or advance to the project, and or help finance Indigenous communities who want to invest in the project. So there's lots of ways the federal government can get money into the project to de-risk it for private operators if it so chooses. And I think it does. And I'll tell you why I think it does. Over the last, let's say, 10 years, Canada has gotten this reputation, fair or otherwise, that you can't build here anymore. There's too much regulation. There's too much NIMBYism in the protection that we've afforded to Indigenous people in Section 35 of the Constitution is too onerous, and add it all up, and nobody wants to build anything. Pipelines, doesn't matter. And Carney has said, we're going to overturn that perception, and we're going to prove to the world that Canada can build. They brought in the one Canadian Economy Act, so that now it's approved projects of national interest get approved, and then they get into an accelerated review process, maximum of 2 years, and then away they go. So Carney has a lot riding on this because the oil and gas industry has been the loudest voice complaining about all this regulation that the Trudeau government imposed on it, so it says. And the investment community is watching this. How will the oil and gas industry be handled? Because if Carney can make a pipeline work, another LNG project work, if they can get it approved, get it built, and so on, that'll be a signal to the investment community that, in fact, Canada is open for business again. This is the reasoning. And so despite the fact that there may not be a business case for this pipeline, and here at Energy Media we argue there probably is not, and at the very least the proponent should prepare a business case so taxpayers can have a look at it. But what he wants to do is he wants to get this approved, get it built, expand. The oil sands will have to be expanded to fill that million-barrel-a-day pipeline. And the worst thing that could happen is that somewhere down the road, it becomes a stranded asset and it's some other prime minister's problem. But all of the 20 or 30 other projects, multi-billion-dollar projects that get approved and built, one of them is bound to fail. So if it's this pipeline, from Carney's point of view, we lose some on this one, but we've gained so much by building these other projects in a hurry at a time when Trump is pressuring Canada that the net benefit, it's worth it. It's worth the risk. So my take on this is that Trans Mountain Corporation is at the table basically representing the federal government, and it will be the eyes and ears back for the Prime Minister's office and the Prime Minister himself, and they will do what they can to make sure that application is put together properly so that when it goes into the major projects office in the spring, it will get approved. And then, of course, there's going to be a huge fight with BC because both Premier David Eby and a number of First Nation groups have already said absolutely over our dead body kind of thing. So there's going to be a huge fight either way. but the Trans Mountain Corp is there to get it to the application stage, and then we'll see what kind of a role it plays, because this is very much up in the air yet. We don't know, but that's my take on it, and that's why I think, and why I've said publicly, that BC is going to get another pipeline, is because Mark Carney desperately needs to send a message to the investment community. He wants them to spend tens of billions, maybe hundreds of billions of dollars to invest in Canada, and he has to send a signal, and that pipeline is the signal.